All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about why every single company needs a warthog. And no, not the animal. Well, not exactly. We're talking about the unexpected, unsung hero of your organization. It's probably not who you think. It's not the slick executive or the star salesperson. It's the warthog.
And you know exactly who I'm talking about, right? These are the folks who don't have those fancy titles. They're not the ones sitting in the big strategy meetings. But here's the thing. If they all just vanish tomorrow, your entire operation would probably grind to a screeching halt. I mean, we're talking within hours. These are your company's hidden survivors.
So this is where it gets really interesting, because there's this huge disconnect. When you hear the word warthog, what do you picture? Probably the cartoon version, right? Kind of clumsy, a bit of a joke. But the reality? It couldn't be more different. Out there in the wild, warthogs are absolute survivors. They are tough, unbelievably adaptable, and they are literally built to handle constant, intense pressure in a super harsh environment.
Okay, so what on earth does an animal from the savannah have to do with your company? Everything. Because that exact same profile, that tough, underestimated survivor, exists right there inside your own org chart.
All right, let's get into it. Let's identify who we're talking about. We're going to break down your company's hidden survivors, what we're calling the warthog profile.
So what does this profile look like? Well, these are the folks doing the hard, dirty, often repetitive work. And they're not doing it in some comfy, air-conditioned meeting room. Nope, they're operating in the heat of reality. They are just completely used to dealing with constant constraints, endless pressure, not enough resources, and you know what? They just keep the whole thing running anyway.
And here are some real-world examples to make this concrete. We're talking about your logistics staff, the ones making sure deliveries actually get there, or your customer service reps, the ones who are basically human shields for angry clients all day long. Think about your night shift teams, your security guards, your cleaning crews, the people who keep the lights on and the place running when everyone else has gone home.
And you know, if you actually talk to these folks, you'll hear this sentiment again and again. Head office has no idea what it's really like down here. Man, that quote just perfectly nails the massive gap between the glossy corporate strategy PowerPoint and the messy, chaotic reality these people have to deal with every single day.
Okay, and this brings us to a really critical point, the high cost of disrespect. Because underestimating these employees, that's not just some fuzzy, feel-good cultural problem. No, it is a massive, tangible, strategic risk to your business.
So why are they so critical? What makes them so important? Well, for one, they are masters of adaptation. When order volumes explode or a critical tool fails, they don't sit around waiting for a perfect solution from corporate. They just figure it out and make it work. They are also your company's shock absorbers. And, maybe most importantly, they are your invisible risk indicators. They see the cracks in the system and know where it's about to break way before any of your fancy dashboards will tell you.
I mean, just think about it for a second. When a decision comes down from a nice, quiet office somewhere and it creates total chaos on the front lines, who absorbs that shock? Who has to deal with the mess?
Your warthogs. They're the ones, they soak up all that chaos so the rest of the company can just keep humming along, completely oblivious.
But here's where it gets really dangerous. The message that most companies are sending, whether they mean to or not, through low pay and crummy conditions, is pretty clear. You are cheap, replaceable labor. And the result? It's exactly what you'd expect. Quality tanks, incidents start popping up everywhere, and your turnover rate just skyrockets.
And this quote just hits it on the head. You cannot build a resilient company if you spit on the very people who keep it running. Wow. I mean, resilience isn't some concept you dream up in a boardroom. It's forged on the ground by the exact people who are so often overlooked.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem pretty clearly. So what do we do about it? What's the solution? Let's switch gears and get really practical here, with a guide for leaders on how to manage for true resilience.
It really boils down to 4 key steps. Number 1, you got to recognize their reality. Acknowledge what they're actually dealing with. 2, you have to ask them where things are broken. They know. 3, design new processes with them, not just for them. And finally, number 4, give them a real path forward, a way to progress.
And I want to zoom in on that second step for a second, using this really cool metaphor. A real warthog, out in the wild, uses a burrow to escape the heat, to get away from predators. It's their safe space. Well, in your company, burrows are all the things that are supposed to protect your people. The procedures, the tools, the break rooms, the support systems.
So the big takeaway here is this. You need to go to your frontline teams and ask them this one powerful question. What is supposed to protect you, but doesn't? What tool, what procedure, what system is supposed to make your job safer or easier, but is actually making it harder? I guarantee you, their answers will be worth more than any expensive consultant's report you could ever buy.
And let's talk about that progression piece. This is so important. It doesn't mean everyone has to climb the traditional ladder and become a manager. That's not the only way. Just look at these examples. You can create incredibly valuable roles like a senior frontline expert or an on-the-ground mentor or an operations coach. These are roles that truly respect their deep, hands-on expertise without forcing them into a box that doesn't fit. Now here's a question I want you to really let sink in for a moment. Just pause and think about this. If 30% of your Warthog profiles all resigned in the same month, what would happen to your operations? Seriously, what would break? If the answer to that question terrifies you, then congratulations. You've just found a massive strategic priority that you need to deal with, like yesterday.
So as we start to wrap this up, I want to leave you with a couple of things to chew on. First, who are the warthogs in your organization? I mean, really think about it. Put some actual names and faces to this idea. Who are the people doing the hard work in the mud at your company?
And then the second question is this. If you truly believed they were strategic, not just a line item cost, but a genuine strategic asset, what would you change first? What's the very first thing you would do differently about their pay, their tools, their working conditions, or just the basic level of respect they get?
And that brings us to the last, and maybe the most important question. This is the one every leader should have taped to their monitor. How much of our survival rests on this warthog I never see in a slide? Next time you're looking at one of those clean, polished corporate presentations, just take a second. Think about the tough, adaptable, absolutely essential people you don't see on that slide, and ask yourself honestly, how much of your company's survival really truly rests on them?